Date my mother's best friend has been hitting on me a lot recently and she is super hot. I was dancing with my mother when my mother's best friend interrupted and took my hand away from my mother's and started to dance a bit. I was under the influence by this point and so I didn't care much for it. I danced away. She then tried to turn around and get me to hold her hips but I stopped her, and told her I was going to sit down on the other end of the club for a minute as the loud music was hurting my ears. A few minutes later my mother's friend came up to me with a drink saying she bought one for me and asked me how my ears were. I thanked her and drank it and I remember nothing else. All I do remember however, is waking up still very drowsy and disoriented to what happened and feeling my mother's best friend's hands everywhere. Before I could even say anything I felt her mouth going there. I could barely feel anything, and I wasn't even sure if this was actually happening as I was so out of it. I stayed silent most of the time and eventually she ended up getting on me, and she did it until I nut, which took around 15 minutes. Could have been more or less, I do not know. What I do know is that I never resisted and never put up a fight, but I felt very weak and could barely even move my body at all, so even if I wanted to have I would have struggled to get her off. I asked my mother and best friend what happened last night and they said I was dancing and then went limp and passed out on my mother, so they called a cab, went back to the hotel and put me to sleep. They said nothing else, and I didn't ask any further questions. I'm now back home and I texted my girlfriend saying the trip was good, and she asked me as a joke if my mother's best friend had tried anything. I said no. I suppose this makes me a victim however, and I'm not sure how comfortable I feel around my mother's best friend now, but I suppose I can just put it out of my mind and get on with it.